There is a saying that if you close your eyes and imagine who a leader is, the picture that you will see is a man. This goes to show that the world thinks not of women as leaders, but of men. Leadership has for a long time been seen as a role for men. And so everything is targeted at making this the reality.
Good day, sir.
Yeah, good afternoon.
My name is Amaka from A Bank.
Okay, I'm from Mr. Bernard.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yes. I'm still at the office, but I'll be leaving in the next 30 to 40 minutes.
Okay, no problem, sir. I could come to your office.
No, I don't think we come to the office. It's better let's meet at the hotel. I could send you the address of the hotel. It's better that way.
A hotel?
Yes, a hotel. That's where I'll be free because I'm living here and that's where I can relax. So we come, we have a couple of drinks. I'll check the account and see how I can open my account with your bank. It's quite easy.
Tomorrow should be better.
Tomorrow I'll be traveling out of town and I won't come back till the end of the month. So it's better we do everything today and settle everything today.
Well, I'm sorry, I can't do that.
Don't you want to open an account? You want to open an account, so you have to come and meet me to open the account. Just whenever you are ready for me to open the account according to my terms, just let me know.
So a few years ago, I was watching TV and I came across a documentary aired on TV that was talking about how young women were leaving the shores of our country, Nigeria, to find better living opportunity outside the shores of our country, and the devastating effect that this has had on the women who embark on such journeys, reasons why they leave and the reasons why they embark on such journeys. And I see how a lot of the young women suffer, harassment, rape, even being lied to, and getting to the shores of where they're supposed to be, not actually getting, to live out what they've been promised. And that touched my heart so much because I started to wonder what exactly is happening to a great chunk of the young women in our country. Realities of leadership for women are quite different. The realities vary, from one woman to another. And I think, it's for me, it would be totally unfair to begin to have a blanket reason or opinion or perspective of what every woman goes through. Research supports that when women are in leadership positions, there is a marked increase in overall performance.
Most of our cultures has made it difficult for us to move ahead, most especially in politics. A lot of people believe women in politics are dirty people. They believe you have to sleep with. You sleep around when you are seen around politician or you are participating in politics. Then, of course, religion also has a lot to play in the challenges we are facing politically.
I think there's really no way to divorce the dismal level of representation from what I would want to refer to as societal conditioning. as a woman, you're pretty much brought up to not be too pushy, not be too loud, be content with what you're given, don't ask for too much. You have to take people's feelings into consideration all the time. It's not encouraged to be too assertive. They call you bossy. That's a word that people hardly ever use for men. So if it seems like you're a woman who wants to get things, you're a go-getter, you have this, indomitable spirit, people tend to think you're aggressive, and for a lot of people that could be intimidating. So you're in a corporate environment. I've heard a lot of women complain about that, and you're in a meeting with superiors or clients, and you have an idea, you voice it out, nobody really listens, and then there's a man on the team who says the same thing, and everybody realizes, wow, that's such a brilliant idea. It's more or less like there is a tokenistic view of women's participation generally. A lot of the time it's like you're in the room not because you have to be there, but just because you're there to fill a quota for having a woman present. So you tend to find that women's contributions are not really looked upon as being all that important. It's more like you're just there to fill a space.
Well, first of all, we need to understand who this set of people are. I mean, young women. What about young women? And what is the problem about young women? Why are we even trying to research into why young women are not being visible in leadership positions? So we need to critically understand maybe there are some issues they are facing, or there's some barriers that they face, and why they're not there. But if I may ask, do we have young men in leadership position? If the answer is yes, so why are we now struggling to have young women in leadership position? So I think those are the things we need to interrogate very, very carefully. When we understand very well what is happening, then we can now know how to place emphasis on, know how to address. So it means there are some issues with young women in leadership. So what are the issues? What is it that they're struggling with? And why is it that the guys are far ahead and the women are falling? So we need to look at those problems very, very critically and begin to see, and what is the society perception about young women and young men, and what is the difference? Well, I told you I like social justice. I've been studying and working around the field of social justice. There's this word that comes very often in many discussions. They say, we have the marginalized group, and also have the traditionally marginalized groups. And they will say these groups are women, persons with disabilities, and youth. And I'm wondering, so this set of people are constantly traditionally marginalized. So what is it that's standing against this set of people and aspiring into leadership position? So for a young woman, what is expected in this society, and I just want to make us understand this, although to a large percentage it will not be like all young women face the same kind of barriers to, So in discussing, we must be very careful not to use the one size fits all approach. There are some very rich young ladies who may have it a little bit easy. There may be very extremely poor young ladies who may face different kinds of barriers. So we won't put them all in the same box, because I also know about some very young ladies whose family background or status has opened up some kind of opportunities to them. So, but we are going to look at it generally, but we'll be mindful of those dynamics in between.
The issues that plays a critical role is culture and religion. But then I honestly feel that for us to change, we must not accept the norm. And it's easy for us to just accept the norm and be comfortable. Because if we're comfortable, then everything would go. Being a leader is hard. It means you're taking decision every second. It means you're thinking, even while you're asleep, you're thinking, your brain is working. And society have made it feel like women cannot put on that shoes. And I'll tell you, leadership, and when you go down memory lane and look at the history, women actually define leadership. Is it in America? Is it in Africa? Is it in Nigeria? Let's even look at the environment riots. Let's look at Fela's mom. These are women that stood up and said enough is enough, that influenced policy. that got government to act. So if you look at history, and the sad part is today in our schools, they don't teach history, they don't take history serious, and they don't document the stories and amplify them so that children and girls know that the face of leadership is actually women. But rather they have put a frame and then put faces like mine and say, we're the leaders. And I'll tell you, see, when you look at my story and my journey, interestingly, it was women that made me who I am today, and it is women that still support me. Women are reliable. Women are trustworthy. They're loyal. And what I am today because of my mom. First, because of my sister. And today because of my wife. And if I tell you the story, it's quite intriguing, but I'm also conscious. And I'm not that man who will now start suppressing women. And what I realize is most men that are successful, if you look at their stories and how they go through the ranks, women play a critical role. But some of them would now put a frame and say women are meant to be subordinate.
The thing about having this conversation is actually not getting, because I could sit here and talk about the challenges all day. We could write books about the challenges and it's not going to end. The challenges are so many that often overcoming them it's a joy and a story in itself. Because the thing about it is about growing up as a girl in this world. It often means that you're constantly being told who you are and what you're supposed to be. In a way that boys and men are not told at all. Because you can think for most of us who, especially once who grew up in Nigeria, lived until I was 17. And even though my mom was a professor in a university, and I don't think she tried to stifle me, neither was my dad. But there was conversations that were happening around me consistently. There was very much about sit with your legs closed, you're a girl. Or if you're going out, you need to look clean and presentable. Yes, I'm not, because hygiene is important. But in a way that wasn't important for boys. I remember I was such a tomboy, is that I remember going to church. I would have a hat, a dress, socks, shoes. And so by the time I go, I look like this very presentable young lady. And the time I come back, the hat is askew, my sleeves are turned, there's one sock missing, and I'd be holding two of my shoes in my hand. And people would just joke because we also even created the term tomboy because that means you're not a girl.
And I think it's a major challenge that cuts across the women in different sectors. It's a societal perception of women in leadership. You see when a woman, let me just use this as an example, when a woman walks into somewhere with another man as a colleague and she's the boss, the way they respect the man is different from the respect given to the woman, not knowing that she's really the boss and the other guy is maybe a partner or a colleague in the office. The way they reference women, the way they respect the accord women is really, really strange in this type of country and in Africa as a whole. So the societal perception about women in leadership has been one of the main challenging things, I think, for women, because society feels that women cannot be a good leader, and when you see one that is a bad one, the media takes it all around as if women in leadership are not capable of that position. So the society also perceives that women are not capable of leading any leadership position, be it political, be it a private or public sector or private sector or in business. And we can see that a lot of women have been doing well, but have you seen the media really, really bringing up these women that are doing well? Because they also in media, it's a patriarchal system. The people that control the board of major media organizations are men, so they want their own narrative to really come to light in whatever interview is being done by women.
Competing or designating certain offices for women could be a good approach. But I believe more in what you can say that power is not given, it is not given. When it is taken, when it is given, you are right. But when it is taken, you negotiate. So what it means is that probably in the past, a high number of women were involved because those offices were given and probably there was no, it could have been a good entry, yes it was given, and then build on that. How do you strengthen that to remain? And because it was given, the value of being given went with it. If the value of taking it was what paid to getting what was gotten, it would be difficult. I feel what was given fell on the need. There was no sustainability. Women didn't take the advantage to strengthen it. Okay, we have such a number of women in the office. How do we ensure that we sustain it? What conscious effort was going to sustain it?
Within Nigeria, the challenges women face accessing leadership positions are multifaceted. I mean, it's in every sector, whether it's within the society, outside the society, within the family. There are so many barriers already set and put in place for us to not be able to access these positions. Now, if I take it from a career perspective, being a HR specialist myself, every day I see these challenges in HR. I mean, I'm in charge of recruitment, and I see that, first of all, the qualifications are not there. Women are more likely to not have the relevant qualifications as compared to their male counterparts. You could link this back to education. How have women been initiated into the educational sphere? Some women or girls have been denied access to certain courses just because people say these are not subjects that females or women are meant to do. You could move it from family to family, where it's normal that the man is the leader and the head of the family and is expected to provide, which is additional pressure actually. And women are meant to be at home, so you find that women are lacking opportunities, lacking the skills, lacking the confidence to even go out and chase those leadership positions.
Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, Nigeria's former Minister of Finance, in her book titled Fighting Corruption is Dangerous, she wrote, and I paraphrase, "Where the issue of women and gender are concerned, Nigeria remains a paradox. The country has many well-educated and accomplished women. Women have been in the forefront of leadership and decision-making positions in Nigeria, but we are still battling with decimal figures and statistics in leadership and decision-making roles."
The conversation that we're having, we'll have to keep having it, especially in the role of girls and women, both young and older women in our society today. We'll have to keep on asking it. One of the 12 critical areas that the Beijing Declaration spoke about is also in women in leadership and decision making. Spoke about education. And it's quite critical, and we have this 2030 agenda to bring this to bear. Now, education is quite critical because when a young girl and a young woman is given the opportunity to go to school, the amount of great things that come out of her. When it is that a young woman is given an opportunity to act with her skill and her intelligence, there's great good that comes out of it. Definitely great good.
A country that actually promotes equality of the sexes, and so you then get less women getting into leadership positions than you normally would compared to some other countries. So I think that Nigerian culture is actually very important, has played an important role in this. Another reason I think you see less women in leadership positions also, in the culture again, looking at the cultural situation in Nigeria, women have roles. And traditionally, roles are meant to be ascribed. Roles are ascribed, so women are meant to be in the kitchen or maybe not doing really competitive jobs. For example, if a woman was going to do a PhD, you would obviously get more frowns than you would get a clap or whatever. So it's all part of that culture that kind of promotes the idea that a woman should just finish secondary school or university, get married, and start having children. So I don't think women in this environment, a lot of women they don't see themselves in leadership positions because they don't even think that they are supposed to be leaders because, like I said, they actually feel that it's a male dominated profession.
The thing about it is, when you get there, young women need to be given the opportunity to trade with their intelligence. They're intelligent people, intelligent beings first. It's totally unfair to give a woman a job because of the way she looks. She's got intelligence, she's got skills, she's got abilities. Those need to be explored. Wherever it is she finds herself, those always have to be the legal tender, the trading terms. It always has to be about her intelligence and what she brings to the table intellectually. That is what we need. If it is that the opposite sex begin to trade and begin to re-educate themselves and remind themselves that this woman or young girl is here for this particular purpose, to exert her skills and drive the organization's visions and goals forward, I think that will definitely go a long way in curbing the conversation about what part of our bodies are more important than our brains, because the brain still remains the sexiest part of a woman.
No, I think we should have that conversation, but I detest in any way, shape or form, because framing is always so important, because the fact that you want to frame a conversation like that, for me, it's already problematic, and I don't believe you're coming from it from an honest perspective. I believe you're being disingenuous. I believe you're trying to water down a conversation about power, because once you start from that perspective, you're literally demeaning the conversation that needs to be had. Because when you're saying bottom power, you're saying it in a very kind of way, like, women and their ability to, to attract men and to use their, wows on men. And it's like, but what society determined that, right? Because only certain women also have bottom power, right? So what happens to the rest of them who don't have that chopped liver? How are they getting ahead?
It's not, how would I put it? Okay, let's take the concept of godfatherism. You have a godfather sitting somewhere who will say, this is who will get this ticket, whether everybody else likes it or not. They force their way through for their mentees, for people that they want to put in office who will preserve their interests. They do that for men. Sometimes they do it for women too. I think it is that concept of godfatherism and how pervasive it is in our politics that makes people think that when women also get positions, they may have traded for it in a certain currency. It's because it's godfatherism that controls our politics. So while male politicians who make progress definitely will not have been considered to have been sleeping with their godfathers, they just think as a woman, for you to get any kind of special consideration, it has to be that you've slept your way through. They believe there has to be a currency that you're offering, especially when you're a woman, and instinctively that's the kind of demands that are made of you. I will not pretend and say that there are no cases of sexual harassment in our politics. I will not pretend and say that there are no cases of people who try to offer that to get ahead.
I think it's also a problem of representation. So a lot of people who think that beauty or the bodies are more important than actually being intelligent is what they see. It's representation. If you grew up and had a lot of strong, powerful women around you who read a lot of books, who spoke intelligently, and who always strive to be the best that they possibly could, then that would be exactly what you'd be striving to do. On television, there's a lot of influences on the internet, on television, on your social media networks, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, whatever have you. People promote this. It's not just in Nigeria, it's all over the world, but people are promoting a particular image. But you don't have to necessarily have to be one over the other. You can be beautiful and still be intelligent. But I think what's happening is that it's not, again, there's no representation. So you're seeing more of the beautiful people that actually aren't as intelligent, dominating our television sets and our radio and all of that. So people are chatting a lot of things that don't make sense on radio, having opinions that make no sense, and then being on TV doing things that make no sense. However, if we had a lot of women that are like Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie or Michelle Obama, that is representation. And I really think like Chimamanda is a really good example because she's giving a lot of young women that I've seen the courage to literally stand up for what they believe in. So that's again how we've seen representation change a generation's mindset of, you know what, yeah, actually I don't want to do this. This is what I believe in. I want equality, and I think that I should be treated the same and offer the same opportunity as a man. Some people didn't think that because it doesn't come naturally to some people. And so when you have representation like that, it changes the course of how they see themselves and how they approach life. That exact same thing has to happen with women who you need to see beautiful women who are intelligent in television, so then you'd be like, okay, well, I can be that, I can do that, you know, and that influences another generation. So again, we just need to better represent this thing.
I've seen this kind of view often among young women, and because of also societal challenges, people are finding it difficult to really get a good job or get the dream job in Nigeria because of the current situation of things. But that on its own shouldn't limit women's potential. And it's because some people have this negative perception by the time you use bottom power, you get far in life. A lot of people are doing it, especially when it comes to politics. But you know, it pays to be different. It pays to use your brain to get to where you are than using your bottom power or things. But you know, women want to really get what can give them the best. But when we keep sharing our own experiences and how we have sacrificed our time on learning new skills, I think we'll start changing the perception. And also has to do with socialization, how women are being socialized in the home, how women are being raised. The young women today will be the mothers of tomorrow, so we need to also train them on how they socialize their kids, especially the girl child.
For me, see, I think bottom power, I don't know, but then brain, yes, brain power, and I think that is what we should talk about. You don't necessarily have to sleep with any man to get to any position. I don't believe in the bottom power. I don't know where that is coming from. It's known. I don't know what bottom power is, and I don't know the meaning, and I don't want to know. What I know is the brain power, as you call it, right? And that is it for we don't let us women, we don't necessarily have to sleep with any man to get to any position of authority. That is why we need to do a lot of sensitization.
To bring this into context, Nigeria has had and still have many women in positions of leadership who are exemplary and are pace setters. Some of them are Grace Alele Williams, the first woman to be Vice Chancellor of a Nigerian university. Chinyere Kalu, the first woman to become a pilot and first woman to also fly a Nigerian aircraft. Virginia Etiaba, the first woman to become governor of Anambra State. Folorunsho Alakija, the first woman to become a billionaire. Elizabeth Abimbola Awoliyi, the first woman to become a physician and to practice in Nigeria. Joanna Maduka, the first woman to become an engineer in Nigeria. Sandra Agrebo, the first woman to become a mechanic in Nigeria. Amina J. Mohammed is serving as the 5th Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations. Aisha Ahmed is the Deputy Governor for the Central Bank of Nigeria. In the case of young women, the reality is even much worse, with numbers in leadership positions nearly non-existent. It is interesting to note that realities are diverse depending on the side of the divide you find yourself. Culture, tradition, environment, education, mindset, power, finances, vision, all contribute to the many realities and biases that young women face.
Success in leadership in 10 years to me would be where a people can actually ask their leader for accountability for whatever, with no fear of persecution, with no fear that there would be backlash, and with the confidence that they have to get the information that they need to know. Success would be where you can get every information you need without it being withheld from you. That's the implementation of the freedom of information. Success in leadership would be where people would actually go out with something. They know if they wake up, they've been empowered with something that they can go out and look for something for themselves, which is basically being taught how to fish. The concept of not being given the fish, but being taught how to do it, where a people can stand independently for their own selves without relying too much on their leaders, which means the leaders must have been able to pave way for their people to achieve what they want to achieve through empowerment and support and infrastructure and education and all sorts of things that need to be done.
My thoughts about Nigerian women are in high places. I think they really deserve it. Some of them, well, you would say that they had their way up, like, you know, slept with men to get that position. Some of them merited it, and yeah, that's life really. You don't know.
Two things are involved. It's either she's flirting with the politicians or true connection, because I don't think it's possible for a young lady to sit in that position.
You see a woman in that position, it is her qualification that takes her there. But mostly in Nigeria, to see a woman in that position, definitely maybe she has someone there who helped her through, or she paid the price of maybe sleeping with someone before getting there.
We have a society that doesn't encourage women, especially in Africa. For example, most ladies were raised not to aspire to be leaders, and that is because the typical African thinking thinks that women are not meant to be seen but to be heard. So let's start from the average home, because charity begins at home. When a father doesn't raise his daughter to aspire to leadership positions, then she won't have the confidence that she needs to take up on leadership roles, because she hasn't seen her mom do that, and she hasn't been raised in an environment where, you know, an environment that fosters her to be to view such positions.
The communication skill is actually an important thing in leadership. You have to communicate for people to buy in, and then you also have to be, well, I can use the word consistent as a leader. When your yes is your yes and your no is your no. Now these are actually things I've learned, and also as a leader you have to be a risk taker. This is the part that a lot of people don't really like. They prefer smooth journey, but you have to understand that as a leader the roads are also rough and you have to take that risk.
My thoughts when I see a woman in any leadership position, first of all, I assess the kind of person seated there, and intellectually you have to assess if her position suits what she has upstairs. Basically, it's of the opinion that for a lady to get to that position, she must have done something or pushed through a particular table. First of all, I want to just say the impression from ladies, I can use myself as an example when I was trying to get a job for NYSC, because I and the lady went there, they picked the lady and they dropped me. That's the man. So now that has given me the impression that ladies have a power to push through, either with their body or intellectually.
When I see women in leadership position, I see strength. I see dominance. You know, gone are the days when women are negated in the kitchen sector, and then basically in the African world, I know in the Western world, women are given the opportunities. They soar higher and then get to the peak of their various careers and all of that. But in Africa, it's been a problem. But at this day and age, when you find women in that category leading in very male-populated, domineering positions, it's a success for the women folk, and I'm giving it to them. I think giving a big kudos to the enlightened society today, the technology, and the ambience to actually carry on, what the world has to offer. Women they are soaring higher.
The concept of leadership in our country is quite a vast one, and it's not as if it's unachievable. I mean, when we talk about the key focus for me, which is young women, is even more critical, because young women are not necessarily seen as being ready for it. The other challenges that exist, and for the fact that young women are just seen as a plaything. You get into an organization and you're not necessarily encouraged to trade with your intelligence. That's a big barrier. And I feel like because there's no expectation for young women to trade with their intellectual capacity, all this other I will call it misbehavior stem from people, and it has to stop, because if it is that a girl, a woman, a young woman is given the opportunity to trade with her intelligence, to bring in her skills and her talent on board an organization, if it is that there is no barrier like sexual harassment in a place of employment, you will see that that young woman or girl will definitely be one of the best. I'm more of a politician, yeah. So I will always draw reference from the political scene. When we talk about women inclusion in politics, when we say we don't have enough women ministers, we don't have enough women as appointees in other positions, most people think older women. When you see these associations coming together, pushing for women's representation in political office, it's mostly the older women. So it's more or less like young women have the double jeopardy of being both young and female. So the challenges that youths face, we feel those too, and then the challenges that women face, we feel those too on an even deeper level. It's like everybody's overlooking you. They think, oh, you're still young, so just be with somebody in one corner of one office learning, and then when you're older and you've trained all your kids, you can then decide you want to compete at the major stage. And that's how it feels, really. Like you have to have gotten to a certain age or have put all your kids through university before you can then decide you want to play in the big leagues. And for me, that's discriminatory. And the discrimination, as I said earlier, is both on the youth scene and then on the women's scene. It's like young women come after young men and then after older women. So it's like we have to try very hard to be seen, to be heard, to be noticed, and to be represented.
I think it's always important to continue to connect the person onto the structure. Often, because ageism is talking more about the structures, right, that are put in place. That makes it difficult for possible young women to speak up. I think there's so many factors that exist, and I think in Nigeria it's exacerbated by the fact that we do see the elderly as wise, right? We see those who are older than us as wise, and the concept of respect is so ingrained in us that you are not allowed to speak unless you're spoken to, and that you're not allowed to disagree with those who are older than you. But I find it interesting because I'm a Yoruba girl, and I always joke that there is an insult for elders who do not know their places when it's hard. And so if there wasn't a need for that word, it would not be in the language. It's an argument we always make. So that it means also that older people must also respect younger people, that there's a conversation to be had among us. I think the thing about it is that we need to realize that older women, especially within this movement, have had to deal with so much disrespect that often, sometimes it becomes difficult to maybe see where young people are coming from. I actually do really believe that, because we stand on their shoulders, let's be honest. So I don't want to, say that I don't see that. But I think there's also an understanding of like young people are dynamic and they take risks and they are just as creative. And for a lot of these older women, they started changing and shifting and dismantling systems when they were young. Because if you go and look at a lot of the stories of these older women, which I actually strongly believe we need to document, a lot of them started in high school and in their college days. They were disrupting student union, they were asking to be seen, they were asking to be heard, they were becoming feminists, and not feminists in the Western definition, but feminists in the African understanding of the world.
Yes, I think yes, we have a particular problem. We don't really have mentors. The older women are not mentored, just few of them. And this is the point where I'll have to appreciate some of the women who have been doing great in bringing other young women like us up, who have been supportive, who have been, our rock. The likes of Barrister Sharon, forget about them. I got a very good support from her as well.
We as a nation, as a country, we need to go beyond, we need to set policies and pass bills that greatly restrict, challenges that women face in leadership, the young women encounter. We really need to put those things in place. But far beyond that, setting up laws is also ensuring that the law works. The law needs to work. People need to understand that once this law is broken, there has to be some sort of punishment that follows the law. So young women that want to attain to leadership positions need to feel comfortable to do that in the tertiary institutions, a place of education. It makes no sense to make a woman feel harassed and afraid to go to school, to go for lectures, when you have somebody who's there harassing her and making life terrible for her. She's there to study and to have good grades. And if she doesn't do as she's told by, alleged lecturer, she stands a chance to fail. That should not be, and I'm grateful to the fact that there's a bill that is being passed right now. But more than that, we need to ensure that the policies and structures are effective enough to ensure that it curbs this. It needs to stop institutionalizing misbehavior of one sex to another for crying out loud. And then, interestingly, sexual harassment is not just in schools, it's everywhere.
It is for you to filter those noise and remain focused as a young girl. And young girls out there, not being married does not mean you're not successful. Maybe I should mention my good friend's name, Osasu. Osasu have built a media empire. See, the way the world works now, it's just in Nigeria and Africa with our culture and our history and our religion that have kept us where we are and have suppressed women. If you go to the US, you go to Europe, or you go to Canada, when people look at women, they don't look at your achievement based on your marital status. Look at what did you bring on the table. So young women out there, and it's important, it is your intellectual know-how, it is your skill set that will get you those successes. And today we all fight about, or we'll say, we need to bring women to take ownership, affirmative action, give them a seat on the table. What are you bringing to the table? The world is led by ideas. As much as you're passionate, passion does not get the work done. It is your skills, and not just your skills, but how consistent are you? Because creating change and making change takes a long time.
Yeah, I think that I wouldn't say it's entirely true. I wouldn't say that women wake up and decide that they're just going to sell their bodies to attain the positions that they want to. I think that if the society has created that situation for women, then women shouldn't be blamed for it. Rather, society should find a way to correct that issue. And it is also prevalent that, a lot of men, bosses tend to harass women within the environment or within the work environment, which makes women feel like, if this is how I'm going to achieve the position that I want to, then I need to use bottom power. So I don't think that I would blame women 100%. It is true that there are some cases where that is how that they feel that they need to achieve that, and some of them are just being plain lazy.
In 2017, it was towards the tail end of 2017, and I won't say which state specifically, and I was to meet with members of the Young Women Forum there, the leadership of the Young Women Forum in that state, and they were supposed to pay a courtesy visit to other leaders within their state. And when we sat before one of the excos in that state, the first thing he said was, when he heard that members of the Young Women Forum wanted to see him, he was very surprised. And that now that we're even here and we're talking to him, he's even more surprised, because what they're accustomed to, or what they think, is that when there are young women in politics or around politicians, they're there for entertainment.
You're not joking, right?
No, I'm not. That's the kind of role that young women usually feel. They're usually there for entertainment. So there's that. And the perception issue is not just something that we battle with. Older women politicians complain about it too. So imagine how difficult it is to get people to take you seriously when they know that you're young and they already have that entertainment mindset going on in their heads.
I am very visible within the women's movement, and that is where I belong, When I go there to scream about, hey, women with disabilities, only a few will understand what I'm saying. The others was like, excuse me, we are doing women here, we are not doing disability. Yes, because it's not there for the people not understand. There was a disconnect, because they didn't quite understand where disability and women, but you see that there's a strong relationship between gender and disability. They all have the same root. Very good. So inclusion, I've talked about young people, what they need to do. We've talked about women with persons with disabilities, slightly different. Because why are they excluded in the first place? For youth, we know they're excluded because they think they are too young to reason. They think they don't have the right mindset, isn't it? For women, we're in a patriarchal society. Women have their limits, and please, you're not supposed to go within this boundary. So for persons with disabilities, what are the issues? So you see that the barriers that they face is going to be slightly different from what young persons and women will face. So exclusion has happened because of stigmatization, discrimination based on impairments. So persons with disability are those who have impairments, okay? But I want to quickly say here that the impairment is not a disability as it were. The impairment is just some slightly bodily function, because we're human beings, we're vulnerable, and this flesh, anything could happen to it at a particular point in time and could bring about some impairment. But that impairment is not enough to cause any disability. It is when you have somebody who has an impairment and is in a society that does not believe in diversity, that is when that impairment will begin to cause a disability for the person. That means the impairment may be interacting with some funny obstacles that will bring about the exclusion. And the barriers that the impairment may be interacting with will just be attitudinal barriers. It could be physical barriers. It could be institutional barriers. So these persons with disability have been excluded because people think just the way they thought for youth, young people don't have sense. women do. So for this whole barrier, impairment, you can't see now. Is this person doing it? You can't hear. Oh, not this kind of people who want it. Oh, he can't even walk. He's on a wheelchair. These are not the kind of people we're looking for. You see the mindset, overlooking the potentials that is hidden within these people who may have this impairment. So it's going to be like a rethinking. Is it to be a shift, a mind shift before they can understand. So if you have an impairment, that is not enough to exclude you from society.
We have come here today to ensure that we prioritize self-defense training for girls and young women. The prevalence of violence in our community, in our nation, is really high. So we're thinking work from the back to the front. Let's equip young girls and women on how to protect themselves. Peradventure, young women and girls happen to find themselves in situations that are dangerous, that are uncomfortable. They're equipped with basic skills to take care of themselves.
The reason why we thought about a self-defense class for women in Abuja was because there are stories that we hear every day of women getting into situations where they're harassed, where they're abused, and we have a culture of shaming in our country that doesn't allow women to speak up. So we wanted to achieve a few things. One, how do we prevent violence from happening? So we teach them how to extricate themselves from tough situations. But we also wanted them to talk to each other today. And I'm really excited to hear women talk about situations. For instance, the lady who talked about when she was monitoring elections, somebody talks about almost getting raped in school. These are the stories that start to break down that culture of shaming. The other reason why we brought them around today was to highlight a few things and a few opportunities for them to get help. First, there's the launch of the Sex Offenders Register, which is happening on Monday, the 25th of November. After that day, Nigeria will officially have a Sex Offenders Register where the names and biometric details of people who have been convicted for sexual violence, all of this information will be housed there.
We're here to take a different angle at gender-based violence as we mark the 16 days of activism against violence against women and girls. We have the legal angle, we have the security angle, but this is the self-defense angle. While we do not pray that anyone becomes a victim of sexual or gender-based violence, it's always good to be ready and to be able to protect yourself from attack. They always say prevention is better than cure, and I'm really, really glad that HAIR and TECHA are doing something innovative, something new, rather than agonize all the time about the violence that women go through. It's better to begin to organize newer mechanisms to deal with the trend.
Women to understand where their power comes from, that they have power and they're not the weaker one, and that men who try to dominate or anybody who tries to impose their will on somebody else is usually the weaker person. So that's the message I had to pass on today, and I had a beautiful time interacting with these women, teaching them how to defend themselves with three basic things: risk control, so control someone from the hair and from the back as well. So it's been a great time, and I was so honored to be here and to come and share my knowledge with you guys.
Well, I think I have learned a lot today. I have learned how to defend myself when an attacker comes. And I've also learned that an attacker is the weaker person. You are the stronger person. Just know what to do at the right time.
I'm blessed and opportune to be raised by a gentleman, a wonderful man, my father. I'm blessed for the fact that he understood the position of a woman. I'm blessed to have actually been raised by a man who understood that I have skills and abilities and helped build my intelligence. I'm so grateful to him. And so I want to, also applaud the men out there, the boys and the men out there who understand that when you, support and you give a young woman a chance to be herself, to be educated, to be intelligent, she will soar high. I applaud the men out there who are doing those things. But the thing is, for me, they're few and far-fetched between. I want to encourage the conversation that we have regarding realities of leadership for young women to be inclusive. Everybody should be having that conversation, and how can we change the narrative? So boys should be on the table, men should be on the table, fathers should be on the table, grandfathers should be on the table. Is that going to happen overnight? But we need to start the conversation, because the men who are already perpetrating such mindset and beliefs and do not think that there's some young women are not an investment need to begin to see the reason why their narrative is wrong. We need to come together, have a conversation, begin to address those opinions and mindset that the boys and men already have. And then in many areas that you can see that a young woman is doing really well because you're giving her the support, the resources, and giving her the ability to function in what she's been called to do, especially with her intelligence and with her skills and with her brain. They will see the difference and the narrative will begin to change. So I'm calling all men and boys to the table to let's have a conversation, let's have a discourse on how we can together change the narrative that belittles women and even makes it worse for young women to come onto the table to discuss decisions that have to do with the nation. Now for me, a leader is not a man or a woman, no. A leader is not a man or a woman. A leader is a leader. That is who we are. And leadership is very vital as a country today, and we all need to come together, both young and old men and women, to ensure that whatever challenges that we face as a nation is greatly reduced. Let's talk about the conversation, let's talk about it in our meetings, let's talk about it in the religious circles on how young women can be better empowered so that the barriers that we face will be greatly reduced and the nation can be better off for it.
We will continue to tell our stories. The good stories we will shout, the bad stories we will talk about them and look at ways to find solutions.